Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1, Joanne Davey. We warmly welcome the family of Gunner Bernard Rudd Thompson, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. Please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Gunner Bernard Rudd Thompson. Bernard Thompson was born in February 1893, the son of blacksmith Richard Rudd Thompson and his wife Elizabeth of the Sydney suburb of Newtown. Bernard was the fifth of 9 children, 8 of whom survived infancy. Barney, as he was known to friends and family, attended Camdenville Public School. After leaving school, he worked as a tram conductor. Thompson enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in January 1916. As a member of the reinforcements to the 5th Australian Field Artillery Brigade, he trained in Australia for 6 months. He embarked at Sydney in late July on board the troop ship Orsova and arrived in England in mid-September 1916. After further training in England, he sailed to the large Commonwealth camp at Étaples in northern France. From there, he joined the 105th Howitzer Battery in April 1917. Artillery was central to the strategy of both sides on the Western Front. Thompson's battery was made up of 6 4.5-inch howitzers. These guns were used in support of Australian and British infantry. 3 days after he joined the unit in France, Thompson and the 105th Battery went into the front line at Beauvrecourt, northeast of Bapaume in northern France. From there, they bombarded the German position at Rheincourt with gas shells. The 4.5-inch howitzers also used high explosive shells against enemy parapets and trenches. Because of the damage artillery could do, the Australian batteries were often the target of German artillery or aeroplane bombing raids. From the beginning of May, Thompson and his men supported the 2nd Division's attack on the German defences known as the Hindenburg Line. The operation became known as the Second Battle of Bullecourt. During the 2-week battle, the war diary for Thompson's brigade noted that enemy aeroplanes were active and heavy German bombardments continued throughout the month. The Second Battle of Bullecourt was a costly victory for the Allies. The Australians suffered 7,500 casualties. During the German retreat, in the afternoon of the 18th of May 1917, Thompson's battery came under German counter-battery fire and he was killed. He was 24 years old. 2 of Thompson's brothers also fought in the First World War. His younger brother, Private Reginald Philip Thompson, was killed at Mouquet Farm in August 1916. His older brother, Private Richard Thompson, was killed only 10 days after Bernard's death, carrying out a trench raid in the Ypres sector in May 1917. Neither of his brothers has a known gravesite. Bernard Thompson is buried at Vaucourt Copse Cemetery in northern France, alongside 103 other Commonwealth soldiers who died in the First World War. He was survived in Australia by his parents and 5 siblings, Phoebe, Henry, Philip, Lillian and Tasman. Mourning the loss of 3 sons, his father remembered them all on Bernard's tombstone. The inscription he chose reads, "Brothers united with Christ, which is far better." A photograph of that headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. Gunner Bernard Rudd Thompson is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Gunner Bernard Rudd Thompson, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget,
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening.